Okay, let's just dive right into this. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're breaking down a really fascinating analysis of how wealth is actually generated. Look, if you've ever felt like the rules of money are kept completely secret from you, you are definitely not alone. We're going to unpack an analysis that literally rewires how we look at income, value, and, well, time. But first, to really wrap our heads around this, we got to prepare our brains to visualize an almost unfathomable scale.
$1 million. For most of us growing up, this was it, right? The ultimate baseline of what we considered rich. It's the dream. $1 million. Just keep that scale right in the front of your mind.
Now, let's kick it up a notch. $10 million. Okay, this is a level of wealth that fundamentally alters your entire life trajectory, not to mention the lives of everyone around you.
Moving up again, $100 million. At this point, the sheer size of the wealth starts to feel almost tangible. You're not just buying houses anymore. You're buying influence, legacy, and entire companies.
And then we hit the big one, $1 billion. Let's just pause here for a second. Think about this massive, towering figure and contrast it with the reality so many of us face every single day. High living expenses, pesky student debt just hanging over our heads, and a savings account that feels literally impossible to grow while working a traditional 9-to-5. It feels like we are light years away from $1 billion.
But the scale gets even crazier. 117. Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon, doesn't just have $1 billion. His net worth is roughly 117 times that billion-dollar mark we just talked about. The gap between the average worker, studying for a degree, and the ultra-wealthy, it's absolutely staggering.
So, looking at that immense gap, you naturally land on a pretty heavy question. Is it a rigged game? It makes you angry. And honestly, it's completely validating to feel that the wealthy must have cheated, or they were born into it, or they just got incredibly lucky, while you're stuck playing by the rules on the losing side.
Now, what's really interesting about this is that the data completely shatters that Hollywood myth. A recent report released by WealthX actually looked at the world's ultra-wealthy. We're talking folks with a net worth of 30 million or more. And guess what? 68% of them were entirely self-made. Think about Warren Buffett, Oprah, Elon Musk, Sarah Blakely. They weren't handed golden tickets. So what exactly do they know that the rest of us don't?
Well, the answer lies in a fundamental paradigm shift. See, most of us are taught what we'll call the 2D equation. Money equals a salary earned from a job. You basically trade your time for a paycheck. But the wealthy, they operate on a totally different wavelength. They use the wealth equation, which says money equals your perceived market value. They don't trade time, they provide value.
To show you exactly why that 2D equation fails, just consider this staggering number, 24 years. If your goal is to make a lot of money, relying on a salary is honestly a trap. Let's say you earn $20 an hour and work 40 hours a week. It would take nearly a quarter century to make $1 million. And remember, that's before taxes and inflation come in and eat it all away. You're trading all your precious time only to maybe become a millionaire at an old age by living incredibly frugally.
So the source argues an absolutely crucial point here. Stop chasing money. In a capitalist society, you are paid in proportion to the perceived value that you bring to the market. And the market, that's just the consumers of the economy. It's you, me, your friends, your family. Money doesn't just magically appear because you work really hard. It follows the value perceived by the consumers.
And the contrast between, say, a cleaner and an accountant brilliantly illustrates that harsh truth. The cleaner might be sweating, physically exhausting themselves every single day, working incredibly hard. Yet they get paid far less than the specialized accountant who's sitting comfortably behind a desk. Why is that? Because market value isn't about physical exertion. It's about how difficult you are to replace. Pretty much anyone can quickly learn to clean, but the accountant, they spent years studying to save clients thousands in taxes. They're much harder to replace, so the market perceives their value to be way higher.
So, the big question, how do we actually increase our perceived value? How do we finally stop trading hours for dollars? The source material breaks it down into an actionable step-by-step recipe for wealth creation. Step 1, find a problem. Step 2, build a solution. Step 3, scale it. And Step 4, automate it. It's literally an engineering process, not some kind of magic trick.
Let's look a little closer at steps 1 and 2. Think about it. If you solve a $1 million problem, you'll make millions. But if you find a $1 billion problem, your solution will be worth billions. Amazon is the ultimate example here. They solved massive, universal problems, the total inconvenience of driving to a store,
waiting weeks for delivery, and dealing with high prices. Jeff Bezos solved a billion-dollar problem and was rewarded very favorably by the market.
But as you start brainstorming your own solutions, you have to ask yourself this absolutely critical question. Is your solution time-bound? Listen, this is where so many ambitious people fall into a trap. If your solution relies entirely on your physical presence and your time to generate money, you haven't really built a business. You've accidentally just created another job for yourself, disguised as a business.
And this brilliantly illustrates the point. Take a $100 an hour yoga teacher. They're doing great, sure, but they are physically limited by the hours in a single day. Their income has a hard cap. Now contrast that with a 24/7 online yoga class. You create the videos once, and thousands of people can stream them simultaneously all around the world, even while you sleep. That is the critical power of infinite digital scale versus local, time-bound constraints.
Once you have that scale, you need step 4, automate. Delegate, outsource, and automate. Honestly, it's time to drop the ego. You can't do everything yourself, and let's be real, there's probably someone out there who can do certain tasks way better than you anyway. By hiring employees and building smart systems, you keep the business running like a smooth, unstoppable machine without requiring your constant day-to-day attention.
Which leads us straight to the ultimate destination, the exit strategy. When you have a scalable, automated solution, you really have two choices. You can continue running it passively, just letting it generate wealth in the background. Or you sell it for a massive payout. This is the liquidation event. This is Facebook buying Instagram for $1 billion, or Elon Musk pocketing $165 million from the PayPal sale to eBay. This is where all the blood, sweat, and tears you poured into your company truly pay off.
But after exploring all these mechanics of wealth, the source reveals a much deeper truth, and it brings us to this really profound emotional realization. From the very start, this was never actually about the money. Money is just a piece of paper, right? Or a digit on a screen, backed only by our collective belief. It's a means to an end, not the end itself.
The real goals are deeply personal. We're talking about paying off your parents' mortgage, buying that absolute dream car, traveling the world, never having to feel that awful knot in your stomach when rent is due. It's about not having to sacrifice your life's dreams just because you can't afford to pursue them. The true destination isn't some arbitrary monetary figure. It's a feeling of absolute financial freedom. Which brings us to the core philosophy of this entire analysis. Time is the only non-renewable resource we have. Once it's gone, there's no way to get it back. True wealth is simply the freedom and liberty to reclaim your time from the traditional cycle of working, coming home, sleeping, and repeating until you retire. Mastering this wealth equation is exactly how you buy your life back.
So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought today. What problems are you solving? Seriously, stop chasing money and start chasing solutions. Whether that means starting your own business to tackle a massive issue or simply finding ways to solve bigger problems at your current job so you can leverage a higher salary, money follows value. Find a problem, build a solution, and I promise you, you will find your freedom. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll see you next time.